Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, has a new tiara. Yes, we were not blessed to see Catherine at the recent state visit between Japan and the United Kingdom, but we saw Sophie in a new tiara. Now, you guys might remember my tiara predictions video. I said that maybe, just maybe, we might see Sophie in a different tiara because she doesn't really have a white one that's really all that usable, because her wedding tiara is a little odd because they kind of refashioned a different piece of jewelry. And although my suggestion for what Sophie should wear was not accurate, however, I was right that she would wear a new one, and we have it. Let's have our intro from Amy Farrah Fowler.
Oh, it's a tiara! A tiara! I have a tiara!
Yes, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, is wearing the Lotus flower tiara. Now, I was kind of hoping she would wear the Queen Mary's bandeau tiara just because of the association with Meghan Markle. To see it on somebody else, I think, would be great. But I was so excited to see this tiara and what it might mean for the future of the British monarchy, because that, I think, is a huge thing here, because I've done videos on the Lotus flower, the Burmese ruby, which Queen Camilla has worn, and I just did a video talking about the chrysanthemum tiara from Japan, and there's not really a bunch I can add to that, although I'm so excited to see it on Masako. But Sophie wearing this new tiara offers some new insights into how the British collection and how these different jewels are utilized might be finally changing, and I am here for it, guys. So we'll get into it today, but if you haven't been to Royal Fashion News, my name is Brittany, and I have a passion for royal fashion. So if you love tiaras and everything the royal ladies wear, which is always classic, elegant, and timeless, I'd love to have you back. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. And if you are watching this video and you're seeing the diamonds sparkle and you would like some sparkle in your own life, feel free to check out Lucia Diamonds. They offer lab created diamonds for a great price. I just got this stunningly beautiful 7-stone eternity band, which I am in love with. I love how it sparkles, especially when the sun catches it. And I also have this fabulous tennis bracelet from them. So if you guys are interested in any of that, I will put a link up above. And if you use code ROYAL20, you shall save 20%. So when I first saw Sophie in the background of this picture, I immediately noticed that, number one, that was not her wedding tiara. And I could not be more excited for that, because I'm not a big fan of her wedding tiara. It looks a little odd. It's kind of something that they utilize from Queen Victoria's collection, which is really cool, but it's kind of a weird setup. It's like, I think they took something that was a coronet and fanned it out. So it just doesn't quite work as a normal tiara. And so my thought was, okay, she's been married 25 years now to Prince Edward. Sophie has not put a foot wrong her entire time in the royal family, really. I mean, they had a couple of hiccups in the beginning because they were still kind of trying to do the half in, half out thing, which just simply does not work. And so since they've become full-time working members of the royal family, and especially with Catherine sick, His Majesty sick, Sophie and Edward have really been the undersung stars of the monarchy. So when I thought there was a possibility of, yes, she doesn't really have a tiara that fits the protocol with this event because the Japanese women tend to wear just white jewelry, I'm like, okay, this is a time to give Sophie a new tiara. And I am so excited that I was right. And so I've even honored her today with my headband here. And so I was so unbelievably excited to see her in the Lotus flower, because I could see it in the background. It was blurry. And I'm like, I think that's a Lotus flower. And obviously, we most recently saw this particular tiara on Catherine, the Princess of Wales. And she re-debuted it, I believe, starting in 2013. And this was the second tiara she wore after marrying William. She wore it to the Chinese state visit, I think was her first additional tiara appearance, although there might have been a diplomatic reception before that. And her wearing this tiara, it was a bit of a surprise, because this particular tiara used to belong to Princess Margaret and was given to her by her mother in 1951 before her marriage. And so this particular tiara has a history, obviously, with Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. She was given it as a piece of jewelry set in 1923 by her husband, the then Duke of York, who eventually became King George VI. And so she had it fashioned into this particular tiara. And it's very, very pretty and delicate. And there's a famous series of pictures where she actually is wearing it low across her forehead, like this, as a bandeau, which was the style. I think we need to bring this back more. What do you guys think? I think so, right? Not quite like this, but something similar. I think more tiaras should be utilized that way. And so it features pearls and diamonds. And she also lent it, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, to her sister, Lady Ethelstone, to the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and obviously George VI, technically. So I thought that was really interesting, because sometimes we don't really see the royals give a tiara to lend outside the family, the immediate family. And so this was definitely a little different, but very, very cool. And Princess Margaret then loaned it to her son, Viscount Lily, in 1993 when he married his then wife, Serena. They have subsequently divorced. And so that was the last time it was seen in public. And it is a gorgeous piece. So let's just go ahead and take a look at a little bit of the description from Gerard. So it says, among the most romantic of the royal jewels crafted by Gerard for the British royal family, the lotus flower tiara perfectly embodies the era in which it was made. And again, this is from Gerard. Created in 1923 for the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, during the early years of her marriage to King George VI, the exquisite design draws inspiration from Egyptian iconography, specifically the lotus flower. Gerard adds, unlike other more imposing royal tiaras, the lotus flower tiara is delicate and distinctive, also known as the Queen Mother's papyrus tiara. The floral motifs framed by diamond arches are accented with lustrous white pearls, a quintessential Art Deco gem. The pearls and diamonds in the tiara were taken from a necklace that King George had gifted his wife for their wedding. And so again, we can actually see here Queen Elizabeth wearing it right across her forehead, which was a popular way to do some tiaras at the time. They kind of got away from that, but it's just so cool. And when it comes to lotus flowers in Japan, they are known as hasu. And so they are a beautiful aquatic plant that has significant cultural and religious importance in many Asian cultures, including Japan. So in Japan, it means purity, enlightenment, and rebirth. So it is very, very fitting that this is the event that Sophie wore this tiara to. But there's a lot of also other things that are exciting about this moment. And like I said, if you guys want more information about the Burmese ruby tiara, I'll put a link up above into a previous video I did on the state visit, I think between South Africa and the UK that happened in November, because to be honest, guys, that's not my favorite tiara. I think it's kind of ugly. It is one Queen Elizabeth refashioned out of a much better tiara and added rubies to that she had been given by Burma or Myanmar, depending on where you are in the world and what you call it. And I I just personally don't like it at all. So it was made in the 1970s. I think the design is terrible personally, and it could have been much better. But Queen Elizabeth, although she was a wonderful monarch, was not really known for her great taste in jewelry, to be quite honest. Queen Mary really was the star of the show when it came to the British. So, but we do have some additional details about what this particularly means, because obviously there's a big question. So this is from Rebecca English. She says the second most senior female royal present, the Duchess of Edinburgh, was lent the lotus flower tiara and diamond necklace by Queen Camilla and wore them with a dress by Susanna. Okay, so what does this mean? And obviously Camilla as well is wearing the new royal family order. I know a lot of people are super excited about this. Honestly, guys, maybe I'm really lame, but I'm not like super invested in family orders. I love other things, but for some reason that just doesn't get me happy. Tiaras do though. And what, again, this tiara means and why this change might be really, really awesome. And so when it comes to the British, how they run or used to run their tiara situations here is that you were given a couple of tiaras and that was it. Maybe one or two. Actually, Princess Diana, only had one tiara from the British royal collection she could use, and that was the Queen Mary's Lover's Knot. The other tiara was her family tiara. So she only had two tiaras she can use, which is really lame for the heir's wife, to be quite honest, because most of the heir's wives or heirs have access to most of the collection. And this is how they run it in the Netherlands and in Sweden. Pretty much all the tiaras are shared except for a couple of the big guns and maybe one or two tiaras that's designated for like the heir. So in Sweden, there's a really strong feeling, although it's not been officially confirmed, that essentially the bottom fringe is meant for whoever the crown princess is. And so sometimes, obviously, other members of the family have worn it, but it's never been worn by the crown princess's younger two siblings or their spouse in this particular case, because she has a younger sister and a brother. So the brother is married to Princess Sophia. Neither one of them, so Princess Madeline nor Princess Sophia, have worn this tiara. It's been worn only by older members of the family, but it seems to be one that is specifically for whoever the crown princess is, because Victoria has worn it at very special official occasions, like, for example, her father's Golden Jubilee. That's the tiara she chose. And there's always messages behind the tiaras. The Dutch worked very much the same way. We saw Princess Catherine Amalia and Queen Maxima both have worn the ruby peacock tiara this year. So they do share their tiaras a lot more. And so the British, though, don't do that. Again, you were given a particular tiara and you really only got to use that tiara. But it seems like times might be a changing because what is interesting here in a couple of things is number one is that although Catherine is the last one who has worn this particular tiara, the lotus flower was lent by Queen Camilla. So this tells us a couple of things. Number one, that although Catherine has used this tiara, it's not one that is like on permanent loan to her. Sophie still had to ask Camilla. She didn't ask Catherine, she asked Camilla. Big difference. Number two is that obviously this tiara is controlled by Camilla, and that means maybe the vast majority of the tiaras are controlled by Camilla. I mean, we kind of guess that, but we know for sure, for example, that Catherine will probably be the only woman who wears the Queen Mary's lover's knot. It may be something that becomes kind of the designated tiara for whoever the Princess of Wales is. So when George get married, it might be something that Catherine retires and George's wife picks up. This actually is the same case in Japan because there's a particular tiara, I think it's called the scroll tiara, that's designated to whoever the crown princess is. Once Crown Princess Masako was elevated to the status of empress, she gave that old tiara, which is actually pretty substantial, to her sister-in-law, not her daughter, because technically in Japan, the crown only passes through the men. And the women are treated not very well because if you marry outside the family or you don't marry a prince, you are basically kicked out of the royal household. So this is a big sign that maybe perhaps things are changing within the British system. That if you don't have a tiara that particularly fits this event, or if you want to maybe use something new, there is maybe now an opportunity to say, hey, I would like to use this particular tiara. And Camilla might go, yeah. So for the British, for vast majority of the time, all the tiaras were controlled by the Queen with a few exceptions. And most of the British collection is pretty substantial. They're pretty big tiaras. I did a whole video on tiara politics. If you want to catch that link up there, you can get that because I talk about this as well. But generally, there are the big guns, tiaras only really reserved for the Queen, only really worn by the Queen, some very few exceptions. Then you have the ones sort of everybody can wear, and then you have starter tiaras. So these are really small tiaras for like a woman's first tiara. So when she's younger and stuff like that. And so a starter tiara in the British collection seems to be the Cartier Halo tiara. It was worn by Princess Margaret before she got married. It was worn by Princess Anne as well. And then obviously Catherine when she got married too. And so it's sort of the starter one. And then women tend to get bigger ones as they go along the way. So with Sophie, it's kind of interesting because she was given obviously this tiara sort of made from something from Queen Victoria. She has worn it. It's her wedding tiara. She also has the aquamarine ribbon tiara that she has worn. She has her own aquamarine necklace tiara, so it can be converted into a necklace. And those were really the three she had. I don't think we've seen her really in anything else. And given that the preference for white jewels in Japan, it made sense, at least to me, that Sophie should have a different tiara for this particular event. And especially because she has been such a huge, huge asset to the monarchy. She deserved something a little bit more substantial and a little bit more awesome because the ribbon one is and it's not bad. It's just one that seems a little bit more not totally well designed, I guess you could say. Not that it's bad. It's just something that looks sort of ad hoc, almost like a Sophie's wedding tiara. Like the aquamarine necklace tiara that she has, which I think was made for her, is her one I would say that looks more substantially like a tiara, not something made from something else and made into a tiara. That's I guess what I'm going for. And so for Sophie to have such a historic piece of the British collection, I think is a huge, 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 huge thing. She has been a huge asset to the monarchy, and her dedication to it should be commended. And she should get something a little bit maybe of a better tiara for this particular event. And she also sort of got a place of honor too, because she was sat right next to the emperor and she was the second highest royal lady. Obviously, Princess Anne had an accident yesterday that prevented her from attending this particular event, although she would have been still the third highest royal lady there. But still, there's just something about this that I think is just really, really awesome. And I am looking forward to and really, 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 really hoping that the British open up the vault more so that if Sophie wants to wear the Queen Mary's bandeau, that's available to her. If she wants to wear the Gerard Kokoshnik tiara, Emerald Kokoshnik tiara that Princess Eugenie wore, she can access that. And I hope Catherine has the same opportunity. There's also the sapphire bandeau tiara that Queen Mary used to wear and Princess Margaret wore that may be up for grabs. Like I'm hoping we see more because the disadvantage of the British system is that although they have this massive collection, you only see a handful of the same tiaras all the time. And that starts to get a little dull. I will say when it comes to like Princess Sophia of Sweden, I'm getting a little tired of her wedding tiara with the little toppers all the time. It gets a little boring. So I look forward to her accessing more because they do have such a great collection in Sweden. Why not access it? So I think there's just a huge opportunity to continue to see more tiaras, see more jewelry within the royal collection by opening the vaults up a little bit more for everyone, maybe even Princess Anne and stuff, because that way it's not just you're just stuck with one tiara and that's it until you're either out of the family or you become queen. That's really your only option because the Brits have so many that they can share. In Belgium, in Spain, there's just not a ton to go around. And Norway's the same way. There's a couple other countries where there's really only a couple of tiaras. So everybody's really restricted on what they can wear because there's just not that many. And so you're sort of stuck with what you're sort of stuck with. Denmark was the same way as well. Princess Marie has worn her wedding tiara 10,000 times. It's the Princess Dagmar's tiara, but she has worn that all the time because she didn't really have access to anything else. She's starting to get a couple of loans from jewelers, but there's nothing in the royal family really for her to pull from. And so I am excited about this. I am so excited to see Sophie in a different tiara and to hopefully see overall a vast majority of tiaras within the British royal family being busted out of the vault and shown yet again. And when it comes to Sophie's necklace, in case you are wondering, it doesn't have an official name. It's a demi-pare of jewelry featuring small pear-shaped diamond drops. And we're not sure exactly who gave it to Queen Elizabeth. She started wearing it in the 1980s. And so it's been speculated per the court jeweler that perhaps this was a gift from King Fahd of Saudi Arabia during her state visit there in 1987. And Sophie has definitely worn that necklace before, so it might be something where she has been sort of loaned this one that she can wear. And so just real briefly here, in case you guys are curious, of course, Empress Masako is wearing the chrysanthemum tiara, which is one of the most impressive ones within the Japanese collection. It's basically only worn by the Empress, and this was the first time that Masako has worn this particular tiara. She could have worn the Meiji tiara, which has star toppers and big diamond toppers. I was kind of hoping if she wore it, it would be the star toppers. But I am super excited that we've seen now the chrysanthemum. This is the first time she's worn it. Very, very exciting. There's not a real long history on it. It's just larger and just kind of known as the Japanese imperial household is known as the throne of chrysanthemum. It makes sense that it is only utilized by the Empress. But guys, I gotta say, I am so excited for Sophie wearing the lotus flower and what it might mean for the future of the British royal family. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think. Are things changing behind the scenes in the British monarchy? I really want to know. I am so excited because again, guys, like I love when it comes to the Swedes and the Dutch, you never know what they're going to show up in because they have so many to choose from and they pretty much share everything. And I would love it if the Brits were kind of sort of the same way. I think even the Queen Mary's fringe could be one that they share. I think there's a couple that could be shared, a couple, of course, reserved for the Queen. But guys, I want to see what the future holds because I am very, very excited. So guys, thank you so much for watching and I shall see you soon. Bye.
We don't count the carats, we count the centuries.